Before we begin, make sure you're somewhere quiet. Turn off the lights. Put on your headphones. Because the stories you're about to hear aren't just scary. These are the kinds of experiences people don't talk about. If you enjoy true horror stories, unsettling encounters, and disturbing events that happen to real people, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Now, let's begin. If you ever see a gas station in the middle of nowhere with only one working pump, don't stop. I learned that the hard way. This happened 3 years ago when I was driving cross-country alone. I had just quit my job in Nevada and was heading toward Oklahoma to stay with my brother for a while. It was late February, cold, dry, and empty in a way only desert highways can be. If you've never driven those stretches, you don't understand how isolated they are. No houses. No lights. No towns for miles. Just flat land and black sky swallowing the road ahead. Around 11:40 p.m., I realized I had made a mistake. My fuel gauge was dipping lower than I thought it should have been. I checked my GPS. The next town was supposedly 62 miles away. My range said 48. I remember that slow, cold realization creeping into my chest. I started driving slower to conserve gas. The highway was completely empty, not a single car in either direction for at least 20 minutes. Then I saw it. A faint flicker of fluorescent light in the distance. A gas station. Or what used to be one. It looked abandoned at first, cracked pavement, half-lit sign, and only one pump illuminated under a dying fluorescent bulb. But the open sign in the window was glowing red. I hesitated. It didn't look right. The windows were covered in grime. The building was small, like something built in the 70s and never updated. No other cars. No security cameras that I could see. But I didn't have a choice. I pulled in. The gravel crunched too loudly under my tires. The silence around me felt heavy, like the air itself was listening. I stepped out of the car, and immediately I noticed something strange. It was too quiet. No wind. No insects. No distant highway noise. Just silence. The single pump worked. I slid my card in, and it processed. That's when the door to the store opened. A man stepped out. He looked to be in his late 50s. Thin. Pale. Hair slicked back unnaturally flat. He wore a stained white button-up shirt and dark slacks. He didn't speak. He just stood there, watching me. I gave him a small nod. Evening. No response. He slowly walked closer, stopping about 10 feet from me. Then he said, very calmly, "You're headed east." It wasn't a question. "Yeah," I said. "You won't make it." The way he said it didn't sound threatening. It sounded factual. I forced a chuckle. "I'll make it." He tilted his head slightly. "There's an accident ahead," he said. "Roads closed." My stomach dropped. My GPS doesn't say that. He stared at me for a few seconds too long. GPS won't update out here. The pump clicked. Full tank. I considered asking more questions, but something in my gut told me not to continue the conversation. "Thanks," I said quickly. "Appreciate it." I got back into my car. As I pulled away, I glanced in the rearview mirror. He was still standing there. Watching. Completely still. About 25 miles later, I realized something. I hadn't passed a single car. Not one. If there was an accident, where were the emergency vehicles? Where were the day tours? The road stretched endlessly in front of me, empty and untouched. That's when I saw headlights behind me. Out of nowhere. A single pair. Far back. I hadn't seen anyone for nearly half an hour. Now suddenly, someone was there. They kept their distance. Never getting closer. never falling behind. Just following. For 15 miles. My hands were sweating on the steering wheel. Then my phone buzzed. No service, but a notification still popped up. It was a weather alert. Severe weather warning, flash flood risk ahead. I frowned. The sky was completely clear. Not a cloud. Then I noticed something else. The mile marker. I had passed 317 10 minutes ago. I was sure of it. But there it was again. Mile marker 317. I checked my odometer. I had driven nearly 20 miles. But the markers weren't changing. My breathing became shallow. The headlights behind me suddenly disappeared. Just gone. No turn-off. No exit. No sound. Then the road ahead looked wrong. The asphalt seemed darker. Wet. But it hadn't rained. I slowed down. That's when I saw it. The accident. A car flipped upside down in the middle of the road. Fresh. Smoke still rising. My stomach turned. There were no emergency vehicles. No flares. Just the car. And something standing beside it. A person. Waving me down. I slowed further, heart pounding in my ears. The figure stepped closer into my headlights. It was the same man from the gas station. Same clothes. Same still expression. He raised one hand slowly. And smiled. I slammed on the brakes. The car skidded slightly. And then, everything went black. I woke up in my car. Parked. At the same gas station. Fuel gauge on empty. The pump off. The open sign dark. No lights. No building lights. No man. Nothing. Just an abandoned gas station in the middle of nowhere. Morning light was creeping over the horizon. My car keys were still in the ignition. I checked my odometer. It hadn't moved since I pulled into the station. I never drove those 25 miles. I never passed mile marker 317. But here's the part that still makes me sick. When I opened my trunk later that day in the next town, there was dried mud inside. Thick. Dark. Like it had been driven through floodwater. And embedded in that mud was a partial handprint. From the inside. I never found that gas station again. I've searched for it online. There's no record of any station at mile marker 317. No accident reports. Nothing. But sometimes when I'm driving alone at night, I see headlights behind me that don't show up on my mirrors properly. And once. Just once. I saw mile marker 317 again. In a completely different state. If you ever see a gas station in the middle of nowhere with only one pump working, keep driving. Because some places aren't meant to help you. They're meant to reset you. If you ever find a job posting that says fire lookout, remote location, no experience necessary, don't apply. I did. And I still don't know if what I experienced was a person, an animal, or something that's been out there a lot longer than any of us. This happened 5 years ago. I was 27, broke, and trying to get away from everything. A bad breakup, debt piling up, no real direction. When I saw the listing online for a seasonal fire lookout in a national forest in Montana, it felt perfect. 3 months alone in a tower. No people. Just nature. It paid enough to reset my life. The job was simple: sit in a fire tower in the middle of nowhere and watch for smoke. Report anything suspicious. The ranger who drove me out there, a guy named Harris, barely spoke during the 2-hour drive from the last town. The road turned from pavement to gravel, then to dirt, then to something that barely qualified as a road at all. Eventually, the tree swallowed everything. No signal. No houses. Nothing. Just endless forest. The tower was taller than I expected, maybe 40 feet high, metal stairs spiraling around it. At the top was a small glass cabin with a bed, radio, desk, and basic supplies. "This is your world now," Harris said. I laughed nervously. He didn't. Before leaving, he handed me a laminated sheet. "Protocol," he said. "If you see someone in the forest at night, do not engage." I frowned. Someone. Poachers. Hikers. People who get lost. Shouldn't I help them? He looked at me in a way I can't really describe. "If you see someone after dark," he repeated slowly, "do not engage." Then he left. The sound of his truck faded into the trees. And I was alone. The first week was peaceful. Beautiful, even. Sunrises from that tower looked unreal, fog drifting over endless trees like waves. During the day, I'd scan the horizon with binoculars, log weather conditions, read books. At night, though, things changed. The forest sounds different when you're completely alone. You start noticing patterns. And then you start noticing when those patterns stop. The first time it happened, I thought I was imagining it. Around 2:13 a.m., the crickets stopped. Completely. No wind. No owls. Nothing. Just silence. Then I heard something metallic. Clink. 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 It was faint at first. Then I realized what it was. The tower stairs. Something was hitting them. Slowly. Like someone tapping the railing as they climbed. My heart started pounding. I grabbed the flashlight and stepped toward the trapdoor in the floor. "Hello?" I called out. Silence. Then. Clink. One step higher. I froze. The laminated protocol sheet flashed in my mind. "Do not engage." I stepped back. The sound continued for about 20 seconds. Then it stopped. I waited. Nothing. Eventually, I forced myself to look. I opened the trapdoor and shined the flashlight down the spiral staircase. Empty. No movement. No sound. But the metal railing was still swaying slightly. Like it had just been touched. The next night, it happened again. 2:13 a.m. Exact same time. This time, I didn't call out. I just listened. The slow metallic tapping. One step at a time. Never rushing. Never stopping halfway. Always climbing. Until it reached just below the trapdoor. And stopped. Like it was waiting for me. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. After 5 full minutes, the tapping slowly descended back down. Clink. 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 Until it faded into the trees. I barely slept. On the 4th night, something changed. 2:13 a.m. The cricket stopped. But there was no tapping. Instead, there was breathing. From directly beneath the trapdoor. Slow. Wet. Inhumanly deep. I felt the vibration through the floor. Like something large was standing on the final stair. Listening. I reached for the radio. Static. Complete static. No signal at all. The breathing continued for nearly 10 minutes. Then something scratched against the wood. 3 slow drags. Like nails. I couldn't take it anymore. I shouted, "Go away!" The breathing stopped instantly. And then. A voice. Soft. Calm. Almost amused. "You're not supposed to look." My blood ran cold. It sounded close. Too close. Not echoing up from below. It sounded like it was inside the cabin. I spun around with the flashlight. Nothing. Empty room. Window sealed. Door locked. But when I looked back at the trap door, it was open. I know for a fact I had closed it. I stared into the darkness below. No one there. But I could feel it. Watching. Waiting for me to lean closer. I slammed it shut and shoved the desk over it. I didn't sleep at all. The next morning, I climbed down the tower for the first time since arriving. I needed to see if there were footprints. Anything. At the base of the tower, in the dirt, I found them. Bare footprints. Large. Too large to be normal. And they circled the tower. Over. And over. And over. Like something had been pacing. Waiting for night. Then I noticed something worse. There were no footprints leading to the tower. Only around it. Like whatever made them had simply appeared there. I radioed Harris. Finally, the signal came through. I told him everything. Silence on the other end. Then he asked one question. Did you look? My throat tightened. Yes. Long pause. You weren't supposed to. The radio cut to static. That night, I didn't wait for 2:13. I packed my bag before sunset. As I climbed down the stairs to leave, I felt something was wrong. The forest was too quiet. Halfway down, I saw something carved into the metal railing. Fresh. Deep scratches spelling out. Stay. I didn't. I ran. Through trees. Branches cutting my arms. No trail. No direction. Just running. And then I heard it behind me. Not running. Walking. Slow. Heavy. Keeping pace. I didn't look back. I didn't dare. After what felt like hours, I reached the dirt road. And Harris' truck was there. Engine running. He stepped out slowly. You shouldn't have looked, he said again. I glanced behind me. The forest was still. Completely still. When I turned back to Harris, his feet were bare. Caked in dirt. And too large. Way too large. That's when I realized something that still makes me sick. Harris never drove me out there. I never saw him arrive that first day. I was already at the tower when I met him. And I never saw the truck leave. It was just gone. Like it had never existed. They found me 3 days later walking along a highway 40 miles away. No memory of how I got there. Dehydrated. Half delirious. The ranger station told my family there hasn't been a fire tower in that forest since 1987. It burned down. After the last lookout reported someone climbing the stairs every night. They never found his body. Sometimes I still wake up at exactly 2:13 a.m. And I swear I hear metal stairs echoing somewhere below me. Slow. Patient. Climbing. If you ever take a job in the middle of nowhere and they tell you not to look, don't. Because some things don't want you to see them. They want you to acknowledge them. And once you do, they don't leave. If you ever stop at a roadside motel in the middle of nowhere and the clerk tells you, just ignore roommate. Leave. Don't ask questions. Don't stay. Just leave. I didn't. And I still don't know if what happened that night was meant for me, or if I just walked into something that had already been happening for years. This was 2 summers ago. I was driving from Arizona to Texas for a freelance photography job. I'd miscalculated the distance, and by the time the sun dropped below the desert horizon, I still had 3 hours left. The highway was empty. Not light traffic empty. Completely empty. No headlights. No taillights. Just miles of dark desert stretching out under a moonless sky. My gas was fine. My phone battery was fine. But I was exhausted. Around 11:30 p.m., I saw a flickering neon sign ahead. Vacancy. The motel looked like it hadn't been renovated since the early 80s. Single-story building. 8 rooms in a straight line. Ice machine at the end. Empty parking lot except for one old pickup truck. The neon sign buzzed faintly. Something about it felt wrong. But I needed sleep. Inside, the lobby smelled like dust and stale air freshener. A small TV in the corner played static. Behind the counter sat an older man, maybe mid-60s, thin, sunken cheeks, wearing a tan button-up shirt. He didn't smile. "Room?" he asked. "Yeah. One night." He slid a key across the counter. Metal key. Not a card. Room 7. I noticed something. There were only keys for 1 through 7 on the wall behind him. "What about 8? I asked casually. His eyes flicked up sharply. Then he looked back down. "Storage." He paused. "Just ignore room 8. The way he said it wasn't joking. It wasn't friendly advice. It was rehearsed. I forced a small laugh. "Okay." He didn't laugh back. Room 7 was second from the end. Room 8 was the last door. Right beside mine. The parking lot was silent. No wind. No insects. Just that faint electric buzz from the neon sign. I unlocked my door and stepped inside. The room was basic. Bed. Small TV. Bathroom. Thin curtains covering the window that faced the desert behind the building. I double-locked the door out of habit. As I lay in bed scrolling through my phone, I heard something. A dull thud. From the other side of the wall. Room 8. I froze. Another thud. Like something hitting the wall once. Then silence. I sat up. Maybe pipes. Old building. I tried to ignore it. 5 minutes passed. Then came scratching. Slow. Dragging. Like fingernails on drywall. My chest tightened. I stared at the wall. The scratching continued for nearly 30 seconds. Then stopped. I got out of bed quietly and pressed my ear to the wall. Silence. I don't know why I did what I did next. Curiosity, maybe. Or stupidity. I stepped outside. The desert air was cool. Still no sound. I walked slowly toward room 8. The window curtains were drawn tightly shut. No light underneath the door. No sound. I leaned closer. That's when I noticed something that made my stomach twist. The door handle. It was moving. Very slowly. Like someone inside was gently testing it. Turning it down. Releasing. Turning it down again. Over and over. I stepped back quickly. The handle stopped instantly. Silence. Then. A soft knock. From inside. Not on the door. On the wall. 3 knocks. Directed at my room. I went back inside and locked my door again. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. I tried calling the front desk. No answer. I stepped into the bathroom and splashed water on my face. When I looked up at the mirror, I saw something move behind me. In the reflection. Near the window. I spun around. Nothing there. But the curtain was slightly open now. Just a crack. I know it hadn't been before. I walked slowly toward it. And that's when I saw footprints. Outside. In the sand. Right beneath my window. Bare footprints. Facing the glass. As if someone had been standing there. Watching. I backed away. Then came the sound that still wakes me up sometimes. Breathing. Right outside the window. Slow. Wet. Close enough that I could see the faint fog on the glass. I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. The breathing went on for what felt like minutes. Then it stopped. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911. No signal. I ran to the door, unlocked it, opened it, and almost collided with the motel clerk. He was standing inches from my door. Expression blank. "You shouldn't look," he said quietly. My voice shook. "There's someone in room 8. He stared at me for a long moment. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. "There isn't." He walked past me to room 8, unlocked it, and pushed the door open. The room was empty. Completely empty. No furniture. No bed. Just concrete floor and stained walls. But on the far wall, there were scratch marks. Hundreds of them. At human height. And in the center of the floor, dark stains. Old. Lead. Like something had happened there over and over again. I stepped back slowly. "Then what's been in there?" I whispered. The clerk didn't answer. He just closed the door, locked it, and turned to me. "You can leave now." I didn't argue. I grabbed my bag, threw it into my car, and drove. As I pulled away, I glanced in the rearview mirror. The neon vacancy sign flickered once, then went dark. The entire motel disappeared into blackness. No lights. No building. Nothing. Just empty desert. I slowed down. Turned around. There was nothing there. No motel. No sign. Just open sand stretching to the horizon. The next morning, I searched online for that motel. Nothing. No listings. No reviews. No satellite image. But here's the worst part. 2 weeks later, I received an envelope. No return address. Inside was a single photograph, taken through a motel window, of me, sleeping, in room 7. And written on the back, in shaky handwriting, "Thank you for staying beside me. I don't stay at roadside motels anymore. And if I ever see a building with 8 rooms in the middle of nowhere, I keep driving. Because some places aren't meant for travelers. They're feeding grounds."